Hello and welcome to the weekly Wraparound, your spot for all the Australian Women's Ice Hockey League action and news. And today we have, as our special guest, we have Kent Unwin, who is the Ice Hockey Australia referee-in-chief. Welcome along, Kent. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Gordo. Yeah, very happy to be here. So thanks for sparing a bit of time to spend it with me.
Yeah, I felt like I was almost going to need to give Michaela Fellows a finder's fee because she was like, "I've got your next guest for you on the weekend." I'm like, "Oh, great! Who is it?" Kent Unwin. So yes, it was good. I actually didn't even have to chase a guest, so that was a relief. But we're also here. We've got Abby Richards, who's back in Sydney after a grueling semester in Canberra. How are you doing, Abby?
Yeah, not too bad. It's good being back in Sydney, which is good. But yeah.
Enjoying the 30-degree plus weather already. And Eric Brook, I hear you've got another jersey on the way, but to join the other three in the background.
Hello, GG. That's right. I've got an Inferno one, and in honor of our guest, I could have put it on, but I don't think I would have fit into it. On the way to the Ice House one year, I did actually find a striped referee's jersey. Not a nice hockey one, mind you, but there is a photo of me somewhere wearing that with the Stang's head on. So I must try and find that somewhere.
I look forward to it. And Sean O'Connor wearing the Washington Capitals hat with pride. The Capitals actually doing something this season. Making
I have no idea about that.
Yeah, well, they're doing all right.
I'm wearing this in support of my friend. So,
okay, yeah, his friend is Alex Ovechkin. He's on track for 52 goals. He needs 36 to break the record, Gretzky's record. So, but yes, as mentioned, we are here with Kent Unwin. So first of all, Kent, welcome along and tell us your connection to the Australian Women's Ice Hockey League.
Yeah, so Australian Women's Ice Hockey League, obviously it's a league that's run by Ice Hockey Australia. So it falls under the Ice Hockey Australia championship portfolio. And as the referee-in-chief, the officials for that league all roll up into myself. So I have that oversight role, working with the officials around and the referees-in-chief around the country, the regional referee-in-chiefs, to ensure that we have the right officials on the ice that are at the time and making sure all our games are covered. So yeah, just another one of those things. Unfortunately, no rest, as they say, with ice hockey in this country. We go from one thing to the next, and our downtime for I suppose for everybody on this call is and your reward is maybe one weekend off.
Yeah, and you mentioned, I know we spoke earlier, and you were mentioning some of the things that the AWIHL has been first out in front, innovating different technologies and different procedures. Can you tell us a little bit more about the AWIHL, expanding into some different kind of areas?
Yeah, certainly. Look, the AWIHL has been one of those leagues that's never been afraid to take a leap and jump forward and try new things, which is it's wonderful to see. If we look back over the years, the first league that had the 3 by 20 minute periods. It was the first league that had full 3 by 20 minute stop time games, which was just phenomenal for our sport and for our women's hockey to do that, to be leading it. That's great. It was the first.
Also went to, every game being televised or streamed online a lot sooner than the AI did.
You're stealing my thunder, Sean, but yeah, it was on the list, mate. Great job. Yes, I'm glad you're keeping touch with the innovations. It's fantastic. Look, the first with the other one that I was particularly proud of, we were the first league to have a final series where all game officials were either currently or previously IIHF licensed officials. So the first league in the country to do that, which was great. Look at the broadcast this season. Last week, watching those games, I was impressed with the picture-in-picture replays that we saw. They were pretty phenomenal. And even when they were showing the replays, to still have the live action in the bottom corner so you can see what's still going on in the rinks was amazing. So props to Michaela and and what she's doing there with the teams and what they're doing there with the leagues, and not to mention also the first league to review game misconducts in line with the rulebook change from last season. So last season, when the rulebook changed and the removal of match penalties, and we needed to look at an alternative, the AWIHL was the first one to review those game misconducts, and in fact, actually, the AWIHL was leading the way in defining how we managed that in the AIHL last season as well. So they're setting the standards everywhere.
Can you talk us?
Oh, sorry, JJ.
No, you go, Eric. You go, mate.
Kent, you've obviously refereed in the AIHL, and you've also refereed, I believe, in the AW as well, and you've obviously got an important role to play. Can you tell us, from an official's point of view, some of the differences between the men's and the women's game?
Yeah, I think so. Like last season, I actually did step back onto the ice for a game in the AWIHL, which was it's been a long time since I stepped onto the ice in an AW game. Not because I don't have I have an issue with doing the games or anything. It's just that we leave with me working too many AIHL games. I'd like to leave those AW games for other officials to get out there. You can't just take them all. I think some of the differences for us in the game is that officials need to be aware of is positioning. The women's game and the men's game is very, very different in terms of how the teams set up their structure, especially when entering into the end zone. You can find yourself getting a little bit caught. There's the large wraparounds in the end zone that you'll see in the men's game, whereas in the women's game, they'll have a tendency to get into the corner and then turn the puck back to their own players behind them, and you can get yourself caught if you're working on the boards there in the what we would call the at the boards position in the end zone positioning. The other challenges for the game is just in general. We use the 3 official system in the women's league games, and the men's league uses the 4 official system. So you need to be a lot fitter out there to last. Like these ladies out there, they're flying up and down the ice, and you've got to skate up and down and turn around, and sometimes there's quite a long gap between breaks. So yeah, it's a lot of making sure you're going to the gym.
I can remember watching the AI 10 years ago and also watching the AW 10 years ago, and both have obviously improved. The AI improved a lot when it went to the 4 official system. Is there any thought about moving to the 4 official system for AW?
That's probably more of a question for Michaela and the teams, to be honest. As officials, we officiate based on the guidance of the teams. It's and the league, it's their sport. They advise us the structures and the policies that they want to put in place. There were some discussions in the off season for that. We would be more than happy to go 3 or 4, depending on whatever the teams want us to do. The decisions that came through to me was continue utilizing the 3, and that's what we've been. The instructions has been sent to all the regional, the state RICs, and that's what we've been allocating to the games. I, for once, for me though, on a personal front, I love the 3 official system. I think if we look at jumping forward to some stuff I was probably going to cover later in the show, but if we look at from an IIHF perspective, our teams, both men's and women's teams, at all age groups, the under 18s, under 20s, and adults, they all play at World Championships in divisions that only use the 3 official system. And by using that 3 official system locally, it gives our officials an opportunity to work that system before they go overseas, which is very important. And if we think of World Championships being anywhere from December is when the juniors usually start. So the juniors are through to April, May when all of them are finished. In terms of high quality national competition, the AWIHL again is going to lead the way. It's the only national league that's running over that time period at the moment that provides that opportunity for our game officials to get that experience and refamiliarize themselves with that 3 official system and be ready for that when they go over to the World Championships.
Earlier today, Kent, when we were talking, I know you mentioned, and I know speaking in the past as well, very passionate about upskilling referees, local referees, and getting them to a position where they can achieve their dreams of officiating at overseas tournaments, double IIHF events. Talk us through a little bit about what your role has been in that, and kind of the growth that you've seen. And it seems that we're getting more and more Australian officials being selected to officiate overseas.
Yeah. Thanks, Gordo. Yeah, it's when I took over the role a long time ago, we were probably at that point where we'd get 1 or 2 officials overseas, and we needed a bit of a radical change. The sport was getting faster, still continues to get faster, no matter whether it's the men's game or the women's game. If you're watching those games on Saturday, you've probably noticed a little downturn on the Sunday, but that was the same with the AWIHL when they're tired, backing up a second game. But those Saturday games were fast-paced and amazing hockey, and we were seeing a lot more of our older officials still around, and we needed to look for a way to bring in those younger officials. From an age perspective, there was probably a decent gap in the generations of officials, for want of a better term. And with the regional RICs, we've collectively been focused on talent ID at a younger age to bring officials on that journey internationally much earlier. If I think of since COVID finished and we returned hockey from the pandemic, if I look at 2023, we had 9 game officials and 1 officiating coach assignment internationally. 2024, we had 10 game officials and 2 officiating coach assignments. And next year, or the 2025 championship season, which has already started, mind you, because when I talk about IIHF championship seasons, we are talking the Northern Hemisphere hockey season. So that's already started. And this year we've had 9 invitations, of which 8 are going, and 2 officiating coach assignments. So it's increasing quite a lot. The IIHF is very supportive of our program. I can't thank them enough for everything that they've done and they continue to do for the game officials down here in Australia. In addition to that, we also have the Trans-Tasman Games that we just saw recently with the women's Trans-Tasman. We had the men's Trans-Tasman as well. And that's fantastic for Ice Hockey Australia and the New Zealand Ice Hockey Federation to be hosting those games and providing another opportunity for our licensed officials to obtain international experience. We'll usually use that as a mix of those who have been traveling to world championships and some of those who may not get a world championship opportunity because they're sitting on the fringe, but give them that opportunity to go out there and shine and show why they should be heading off to the overseas as soon as possible.
Yeah, that stepping stone.
That's right.
Yeah, I saw that for the first time you guys had an all-female 4-person officiating crew at the Trans-Tasman.
That's correct, yes.
It's pretty impressive. If I think back years gone by, we'd probably had 1 or 2 female officials that would go overseas. Now we've got we've got 3 going this year. 3 that were invited to go. That number is increasing, but we've got from a linkage perspective, the performance of our national teams also links through to our game officials as well. If we think of hockey as an ecosystem, you look at players, you look at coaching, you look at officials. They're all intertwined. The better the coach means the better the player. The better the player means the better the product, means the better official we have to develop and we have to put out there in order to ensure that game is the best it can be for those players and for everybody who's watching. So it's increasing that means that we will have greater opportunities for our officials, both domestically and internationally as well.
So, Kent, for anyone who's not aware, how does the IIHF decide which of our officials are worthy? And further on that, how do they decide who goes where?
Yeah, that's very good questions. The latter of your question, I probably can't give you an answer to, Eric, because I don't know how all that system in fact works in the back end in terms of the where component. I would imagine there's probably a lot of it to do with costs and those sort of things as well. But let me talk about some of the stuff that we do know. So each year, the
so we have an IIHF license. Those licenses are allocated to officials. So around that June timeframe, we'll reach out to all the regional RICs, asking them to nominate their officials for an international license. These are the officials that the state RICs have been working with, are seen as those officials that they've ID'd and highlighted that are good for or ready for the international competition. From there, we'll take that list from an IHA perspective. We'll put together that list and send that through to the board, and we'll all review that and then submit those names through to the IIHF. It's working with the state RICs is amazing. It's fantastic to see the hard work that they do at their level to develop and so firstly identify, but also develop and fine tune their officials and getting them ready to perform on the international stage. There's some officials are just happy doing what they do local. There's some that come into the sport and go, I want to shoot for the moon. And it's great to have those officials all through the gambit of hockey. We need all of them for the game to be successful. So by the time the names get to me, they're usually been vetted quite well by those state RICs. Those names are submitted to the IIHF, and from there, licenses are allocated based on the quota that we've been given by the International Ice Hockey Federation.
And one person I know you messaged earlier last week to let us know about Beth Boschel and her assignment to the first IIHF Asian Women's Championship. We have a few photos that Beth has kindly let us use from her phone. So she said no photo credit needed, but that's her and the team. And then we've got this is the rink that they're playing out of, which is just a gorgeous rink there in Beijing, and there's Beth herself on the ice. How does it feel for you to see officials reaching some of their goals?
It's amazing. It's phenomenal to see the officials out there doing what they do on the world stage. Beth in particular, she's a role model for anybody and everybody when it comes to officiating this sport, whether it's female officials or male officials. I can't speak highly enough of how much time, energy, and effort she puts into perfecting her craft out on the ice, and she's just an amazing individual. So it's great to see her. She lights up every time she's on the ice, whether it be local, national, or international. And to see that for all of our officials out there when they get a chance to step on that ice and pull on that IIHF crested jersey, it's just really great to see.
We spoke about jerseys earlier, Ken. Do you collect the jerseys that if you go overseas, you're involved in a world championship, for instance? Do you keep the jersey as a keepsake?
So I don't. Our game officials, when they do go overseas, get to keep the jerseys. So that was a recent addition, probably since hockey returned from the pandemic, with sponsor from the IIHF sponsor Warrior. They provide game officials with jerseys for every tournament that they go to, and they get to collect and keep those jerseys. You would have noticed those jerseys being worn at the Women's Trans-Tasman a couple of weeks ago by the game officials as they obtained them from overseas previously.
Look fantastic.
As Australian ice hockey continues to grow, is there anything that you want to really improve in like the official side of it, or like any goals you want to achieve?
I think look, hockey's always going to grow, to get faster and get better, and as game officials, we need to continue to do that ourselves, and we do. Like, we as game officials, we're harder on ourselves than any player or any coach can be when something doesn't go right or it just looks like it's gone wrong. We'll play it. I know our guys, they play it over in their heads many times over, and it eats at them and it keeps eating at them. And we just want to do our best out there. We want to grow the number of officials. If I think of say from a officiating perspective, we do lose a lot of officials each year. So continuing to grow
those officials, keep those ones that are interested. I'm probably thinking we probably, in terms of, I haven't run numbers from an AWIHL perspective. Obviously, the season's just started, but if I think from AIHL from 23 to 24, we're probably 20% down on the officials that officiated in the league compared to the year before that have just said, "Nah, I'm finished, I'm done." So we just need
it's a tough
to.
gig, right? Like there's a lot of criticism that's always laid on officials, and it takes its toll.
There is a lot of criticism. It's an interesting one that, you know, I don't advocate for anybody to be targeted, but we officials seem to be. It's unfortunate. Coaches,
it happens in so many sports
I don't
now,
want them to
too.
be. And in saying that comment, I don't want them to be. It would be just great to just go, you know what, it is what it is. But yeah, you're right, Sean. It's in every sport. It's unfortunately, it's sort of probably ingrained in the sport.
And I think you're right as well
general.
about officials tend to be harshest on themselves. Like I still remember decisions that I made as a soccer referee like 15 years ago, you know, which might have been incorrect. And you're just like, oh, you know, should have done this, should have done that, but whatever.
No, it's a learning experience for all of our officials. If you always say those things are character building, they're character building for us because we remember them and we'll play them through our head and we'll try and work out what we can do to avoid that in the future. But I think one of the biggest changes for officials is a move away from supervising to coaching. If you think of teams have a head coach, or teams have multiple coaches, but let's just say they have a head coach, and officials have that as well now. If we think of that from a world championship perspective, gone are the days when you would have a supervisor and the supervisor would come in and give you the compliment sandwich, as we used to always get. Or if you're unlucky, you might not even get the two slices of bread. Whereas now it's more an officiating-led discussion is where we're aiming at for those world championships, where we try and bring the best out of those officials that way. That's probably one of the improvements, Abby, that where Ice Hockey Australia has asked me to look at, and I'm working on closely is developing that officiating coach program for Australia. I've been working closely with the IIHF and a sports psychologist overseas to put that material together and host an officiating coaching seminar early in the new year. My target is obviously before our winter season starts next season for that.
Nice.
So just to continue on with what Abby said, and Sean mentioned earlier the streaming for both AW and AI. How important is it for you and the state referees in chief to have a look at the coverage and see what the officials are doing on the ice? I know we don't have NHL style cameras and all of that sort of stuff, but how important is it for you to be able to review every game? And do you watch with the sound on?
Yeah. So one of the good things, and I know Gordo mentioned it in the with his chat with Michaela about the scheduling of the AWIHL games, in the fact that there's so many of those games that are not on at the same time. So those times are quite mutually exclusive to other games. It's possible to watch a lot more of those games, and that was something I was able to do over the weekend, except for the Sunday. I had to flick between those two games. That was one of those off ones. Oh, I want to watch this one, I want to watch that one. It was a bit tricky. You missed it. All right, better rewind. Thank you for YouTube for allowing me to rewind. But yeah, it is important being able to watch those games. I know a lot of our officials would watch their own games back themselves. That was one thing that they do. They do go back. They watch their own games. They critique themselves. Like I said, they're out there watching themselves and working on their own performances well before some person up in the crowd's having a go at them about it.
Yeah.
And
speaking of that, sorry, Gigi. Speaking of that, if someone wants to get involved to become a referee, what's the process? Where do they start? Yeah,
good question. So, firstly, if you're interested in, it's a really good one actually. So, just recently on the Ice Hockey Australia website, under participation, menu, there's a menu item there called Pathways, and we've put together just a little brief diagram that shows the pathways from a officiating perspective. So we have officials from as young as 13 that can commence officiating, and they would work in our games, like our 6U, 9U, 11U games, and they can be on the ice with experienced officials and getting them through early on. You would start locally. You would start in those potentially cross ice games, work with your state referee in chief on those games, and as you go, you can move up the structure. So you move from a level 1 to a level 2 when you start looking at building professional and interpersonal and professional skills for understanding officiating, and then you may look at your 15U, start looking into that full checking games, the 18U, the juniors games, and indeed our high level women's games, which are whilst they are non-checking, they are quite physical. And I was very that's one thing I must say, I was very pleased to see the game officials on the weekend and how those games were let to run with the physicality that we expect now in women's hockey, and those deliberate body checks were called, and thankfully there weren't too many of them. I think that's probably one of the major differences. Back to that question earlier on, in women's hockey, they seem to know where the line is, and when someone crosses it, everybody else learns, which is probably one of the good things for hockey.
Yeah, sometimes in the AI, they like to try and stretch that boundary as far as possible, test it.
Yeah, I agree. And look, so once you start with going to your local referee in chief, at some point you might make your way into doing national championships, and then you'll get onto the national radar. And then from there, if your name's nominated by your state referee in chief, at that stage, the state RIC is usually having those discussions with me, and we're talking about it in our meetings, and we'll find opportunities for them overseas if they're available.
Yeah,
if
awesome.
I could take you back a little bit, Kent, how did you get involved in refereeing in the first place, and did you think that you'd ever get to where you are now?
So good question. Refereeing, going to show my age a little bit here. I always was a referee. I refereed basketball back in high school. I could jump, but I couldn't shoot. So I wasn't really useful to a basketball team. So I decided to take up the whistle and officiated basketball whilst I was in my high school years, and then left that, and then I probably saw hockey on TV. Just saw it on TV one time. My dad had the old Optus Vision. I'm showing my age again, talking about good old Optus Vision pay TV, and there was a game of hockey on it.
I'm waiting for you to say what's Optus Vision.
Yeah, and basically saw a game of ice hockey and went, "Wow, I'm going to try that." So I tried that. Started skating from there. Started played for a season, and then, like all amateur sports, we had no officials, and it became a case of, for our seniors team, where all seniors teams were required to provide a game official in order to play the game. So I put my hand up and said, I'll do the course for my team. Moving forward, I found that I was going from games to games. I'd turn up to play and we'd have no official. So instead I'd have to referee so my team could play. That was interesting at first, because you'd turn up to the training session on Wednesday night the following week, and your teammates would probably take it out on you if you called a penalty on them. It was always in good fun, but yeah, probably got a few body checks there, which was but anyway, that's life. And then got to the point where I think my last season, when I was registered a player, I played 2 games out of a 24-game season, because I was always just at rinks refereeing. And from there, I decided, you know what, I'm not going to play anymore, and just moved straight into refereeing. Do I think I would have got to where I have? Never in my wildest dreams would have I thought that officiating ice hockey would take me to where I've been, taken me to countries I never even thought I'd go. I've traveled overseas when I never thought I would. Been to Frankfurt, Copenhagen, Abu Dhabi, Bulgaria, Estonia. So I've been to Tallinn, been to Helsinki, been to Yeah, Belgrade, not Belgrade, sorry. I haven't been there. Wouldn't mind going there. Been to Budapest, Miskolc, a couple of hours outside of Budapest, was a great game that I went to when I was working with the Hungarian League for the Hungarian Cup game. Paris, Riga, a couple of times. It's just the list is endless, and it's just places that you never thought of that this sport can take you. As an official, one of the good things from an IIHF perspective is that as a member association, we are given those opportunities. And if I think of, say, our colleagues in USA and Canada, where we've just moved to the Americas, they're going to have 35,000 officials, 30,000, 40,000 officials. Just the numbers just astronomical. I couldn't even imagine it compared to down here. And the top of their pyramid, to reach that is quite hard. It's very difficult. I was fortunate to work with a number of those officials in Helsinki earlier this year at the World Men's Under-18s top division, and seeing some of those guys on the ice was just amazing. But to think that even in Australia, to reach that top of the pyramid and then be given an opportunity to go overseas and work in world championships, just like those guys, when you're fighting with a smaller amount, you work hard, dedicate you some time and put the effort in, and officiating can take you places. It's just amazing. You pinch yourself every time.
When you watch games now, Kent, do you watch the players or are you watching the officials? What's your kind of the go-to for you?
It's look, I watch the officials.
No, sorry.
No, sorry. Go ahead, Gordo.
No, I was going to say we've got a clip, and you know we're mindful of your time, but we do have a clip of the Perth Inferno Sydney Sirens, and if people haven't seen it, we'll just quickly show the goal, and then we'll show a little clip of the discussion. Would you mind talking us through what could be happening in a conversation like this that we see between the coaching staff and the officials?
Yeah, certainly.
All right, so we'll show the goal first. This is from Saturday's Inferno game, Inferno v Sirens.
Well, the shutout thing is a puck's dropped. The last time that the Perth Inferno was shut out was February 23 by the Sirens as the puck played to the slot. Sirens with the opening chance, but Perth Inferno will move away. It's an odd player rush, 2-on-1. Scala gets it across, and they score! Georgia McClellan, the game winner in overtime for the Inferno.
And then we go to this discussion here, and in the video there was discussion of perhaps they were talking about the slash or the offside.
Maybe if we had a separate angle, the officials are over. Maybe they are having a look at this.
Yeah, we've got head coach Jaden Ryan is showing them something on his phone. So I'm not sure what that is, but
I wonder if that's the topic of conversation here. Of course, you can't be absolutely sure, and it's a dangerous game to try and assume, but just from what we saw, it looked very close.
I think that's crazy that it was shown on the phone.
Look, firstly, I'd just like to say that the commentary in the games on the weekend was fantastic. Not because you're on the call, Gordo, but the commentary over the weekend was amazing. So great job there, mate. But look, I think there was probably a little bit of so that one's an easy question to answer and not an easy question. So let's start with the easy part. I think that one's from a process perspective, there was probably a little bit of a confusion regarding what new rules applied within AWIHL games, and that's what led to the discussion at the end of the game. From a sport perspective, IIHA regulations, that you can easily find them. That it can easily be found on the IIHA website under governance menu item. You go to governance, and there's a menu item under there, and you can find things around the IIHA sport regulations, the AWIHL regulations, IIHA suspension guidelines. There's many others there. But if you also go to the officiating page, you'll find things like the IIHA Game Officials Handbook, the IIHA Rules Emphasis and Officiating Standards, and you'll also find a new rules overview document. Now, one of the changes to the rulebook this year or this season, and like I mentioned in the beginning of the call, the AWIHL is the first league that runs off the new rulebook. With it starting at this time of year, it always uses the new rulebook before any other league, or any other national league. So it's using the 2024-2025 rulebook, which will be in use next year in the AIHL season. So we're ahead of the game. And that one of those changes to the rulebook allows for coaches to initiate a coach's challenge within the last minute of the third period or during an overtime.
Oh.
Previously, that used to only be only the video review consultant was allowed to initiate a review in the last minute of the third period or in overtime. Now, including this in the new rules overview is what caused some confusion, quite frankly, because the rules emphasis document is the other document that you need to look at and understand what rules will apply and what rules won't apply in IIHA competitions. A case in point in that is the trapezoid behind the goal. Not all rinks have the trapezoid or the goalkeeper restricted area, and therefore that rule does not apply in our competition. So that's stated in the rules emphasis as an example. So the rules emphasis says that Rule 37 and Rule 38, so Rule 37 review of goal situations and Rule 38 coaches challenges won't be used. But the new rules document said that the coach could initiate a challenge. So it caused a bit of a confusion there. Moving forward though, if you look at Rule 37 and Rule 38, would you include it in games? And that's a question again for all the teams and the for the AWIHL commissioner. If we think of it, it would add to the overall running time of games, cause financial impact to teams. The other challenge we have is that Rule 37 and 38 require an off-ice official designated to serve in the role of video review consultant. And that VRC must have access to replays of the broadcast. They must be able to talk to the game officials. They must control the broadcast based on what's guided to them by the game official. Rewind this, show me this view, etc. And they also consult with the game officials. We don't have trained VRCs. We don't have a capability for a VRC to manage this process. Even at AIHL finals, we didn't have that capability for someone to manage the VRC process for those game officials. And in essence, they're on their own. They had to try and work it out themselves without the guidance of a trained VRC and hope for the best. So look, we could look at adjusting processes if the league asks us to. By all means, we'll do what the league tells us. But we could look at adjusting processes that protect the game officials and their discussions and the process they're undertaking. But, either way, we need to ensure that there's policies in place that detail how audio is collected, how it's transmitted, who's listening, who has access to the audio, whether it's stored, if it's stored for how long, if it's stored for how long, how is it destroyed, when's it destroyed, etc. There's a lot of policy stuff that still needs to be put in place before we can consider anything like that. Now, the hard part. You thought I was going to avoid it. I won't avoid it. Was it a look, the first part and first and foremost, the change of the rules in the 24 rule book. I remember watching this incident. Look, it wasn't an offside. Let's be fair. It was. We do have a 3D roll. The blue line is 3D now. You can have your state listed on entry. Let's be clear, on entry to the end zone. This one was. And then I think the other thing we have to bear in mind is as a game official, as a referee, even as a lines person, but as a game official, we work on what's called sight lines. We have sight lines to the play, and sometimes we're blocked. Unfortunately, sometimes we are caught out, and we may not see the entire play pan out. I'm not going to second guess my game officials. I'm sure everybody else out there has got an opinion on whether the play heading down towards the Inferno goal prior to that was an infraction or not. I'm sure if the game official watched that back and felt it was a penalty, I can guarantee you, like I said, he's going to be harder on himself than anybody else. So I just hats off to to the officials that get out there and are willing to put themselves front and center and try and do their best to ensure that our the sport that we love is able to play.
Now, obviously, Ken, I've been involved in commentary, that sort of thing. I've been involved in those sort of productions. We've both been in games where situations like that have occurred. For anyone who isn't aware at home, they've only got the one camera in the A-dub, and that's actually on a scissor lift. So that was actually quite a good view of that particular blue line, and also quite a good view of the discussion between Coach Ryan and the officials there. And that's one thing we have to keep in mind, that we had a great view of that particular blue line compared to if it was in the other direction, the view would have been nowhere as good.
Yeah, like I said, you're right. The camera angle was a good one. A lot of the things you can look at on plays when it comes to whether or not slashing is occurring. You can look at how high someone's lifting their stick. One of the dead giveaways is a player normally holds a stick with one hand at the top of the stick and one hand halfway down. You see those two hands slide together. They're not trying to and the stick's coming over the top. They're not trying to get the puck. They're going for high up on the stick, or it's going to hit the glove. And there's those sort of things that we look for when we see the plays going down there. Now that I've given away the secrets, the players are probably going to change the way that they're playing the game, and we have to go to the drawing board all over again. But anyway, that's how we make our game better.
Ken, you mentioned earlier about the IIHA's move into the Americas. How is that regional switch going to affect officiating?
Yeah, really good question. So the move to Americas, Ice Hockey Australia has always had a very close relationship with USA Hockey and Hockey Canada. We've always, from a playing and coaching perspective, we've had coaches come down to our national development camps every year, and we've just had Bob down here running our level 3s coach. So we've always had a close relationship. Ice Hockey Australia runs an officiating camp every January alongside that U17 players camp, and the structure of that and a lot of that thought planning around that originally I did get from USA Hockey, reaching out to their development arm many years ago. So it's we've got that close relationship with them, which is great. So hopefully with this move to the Americas, we'll be able to solidify that relationship and continue to expand on it. One of the things that always comes up every year is import officials. I like to not call it import officials and use more of a friendly exchange program officials. And that's some of the discussions that we've already kicked off between myself and our colleagues over in the North Americas around what an exchange program looks like to have North American officials working games in Australia next season, and what it also means for their Northern Hemisphere season next year to have some of our officials go overseas and work in their league as well, or their leagues, I should say. So those discussions have kicked off. We're just currently working on what the program looks like, budgeting, mapping it out. It's quite a complex process. If you think of having to fly somebody in, house them somewhere, transportation, food. I'm not an AIHL or an AWIHL team, so I don't know what it's like for them to bring in this sort of thing before. So I'm learning on the way. So, but yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do from that. And in the past, we've also had a lot of our officials work in Asia games in the previous Challenge Cup of Asia that was around. I'm not familiar enough yet to see if that's something that's progressing within the South Americas region. As I know, one of our coaches over there at the moment, Jeff Fody's over in Brazil now. So there may be opportunities there for our officials in the South American context in developing the officiating and working with those up and coming countries as well. So look, it's very exciting, but immediately for me, the main thing is working with my colleagues on fleshing out that exchange program and gathering more information and more intel on what I can use on those national championships and the coaching courses there.
So, Kent, you've watched all the games on the weekend. It's now midweek. What are you doing in the middle of the week in terms of your role as the referee in chief?
Yeah, look, a lot less than what I did during our winter season. It's quite interesting, actually. So, look, if I think of what we did with the AIHL and then map that and how that's different to the AWIHL, I think one of the big differences that's freed up a lot of my time at the moment to be working on that course material that I mentioned about. But I think one of the differences is that the is game reviews or post game reviews, I should say. The AWIHL don't utilize post game reviews, and that took up a lot of my time. If I think of penalties or game misconducts that required reviews, last season for the IIHL, I reached out to my colleagues around the country and put together a panel of 6 individuals that reviewed those infractions, and they would tell me whether or not it was a penalty or a suspension, and then I'd just fill in the paperwork and send the emails. But that was very time consuming. You'd have up until midnight on a Monday for a team to lodge a review. I'd have to make a clip, send it to the overseas. 4 of those officials, 4 of those members were in Europe. 1 was in USA, 1 was in Australia. So it worked well from a time perspective, but they'd have to get back to me by 8 a.m. By between 8 and 9, I'd have to get that clip, send it to the disciplinary counsel, who's an external lawyer, and make sure that's with them before 9 a.m. Then the 2 days kicks in that they've got to review it, and they've got to close of business Thursday, and then you've got to notify the teams on Friday if there's any outcomes from that. Thankfully, AWIHL, what called on the ice or potentially what's missed on the ice, if you want to look at it that way, and that's final. So that's freed up a lot of my time, and it's allowed me now, as mentioned with the new rulebook, allow me to update course material, review our all of our different course material that our referees in chief use to teach our officials, and then still develop work on that, work with that sports psychologist, and work on the officiating coach program seminar material.
No, thanks very much, Ken, for all your time and for explaining the process. I think a lot of people, aren't familiar with kind of what goes on behind the calls, and the referee is an easy target for when your team loses and you want someone to blame that isn't your favorite player. But it's also exciting. Really appreciate you sharing as well the opportunities that you can have to be able to do some cool stuff and learn from other colleagues as well. So yeah, we really appreciate your time. Did you have any final thoughts that you wanted to share as well?
Look, I'd probably just say to anybody out there that's ever considered officiating, give it a shot. It's an amazing experience. I'm not going to be arrogant to think that I would ever have been able to step on the ice and play an AIHL game. And I've been fortunate enough to step out there and officiate 252 of them. Never would have happened. I never would have made it as a player. I'm not going to lie. I was never that good. So it wouldn't have happened. But to be able to get on the ice and work with those players out there, the best in the country, some of the best in the world that come spend their summers over here and come over to play hockey with the imports. It's just amazing. I get butterflies every time when I was out there on the ice. So yeah, just keep going. Just give it a shot. We will be there, whether it's another game official or your state referee in chief or myself. There's always going to be somebody there that will be there to help and support you and bring you along that journey.
I see someone here, a LinkedIn user, said, "Bravo, some fascinating insights." And we've got Tyler Young here saying, "Take up the whistle." So, anyone out there wants to? Let's do it.
Yep. No,
cool.
Thanks very much, Ken. And we'll get you on, no doubt, at some point in the future. And yeah, really appreciate yourself and Ice Hockey Australia, of course, allowing you to come on, and Michaela Fellows as well. Yeah, really appreciate it.
No, thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate the time, and by all means, more than happy to come back whenever you need me, or whenever you need a boring guest to fill some airtime.
No problem. Thanks, Ken.
All right. Thanks all. See you later.
See you, mate.
Bye.
So that was good. Thanks again to Kent for coming on, and he was pretty open with stuff as well. But we did have week 1 of hockey, and these were the results. The Inferno with a 1-0 win in overtime. The Melbourne Ice with a 7-1 win over the Lightning, powered by a 6-goal third period, and the Inferno 4-3 over the Sirens on Sunday, and the Melbourne Ice getting the double with a 3-1 win. Let's go first into Melbourne Ice and Brisbane Lightning. I'll just pull that one down. We do have we're short on time, so we'll just play a couple of goals. One of them, this is an Emily Davis-Tope goal, and keep an eye on the assist from Christina Julien. Like, this is just obscene.
In each other's attacking zone, but not really significant periods of time. So we're sort of seeing Melbourne might be able to do it, then Brisbane will be able to do it on the other end. Really been a defensive show.
Davis-Tope puts it home. Melbourne score early. Julian put it in. Davis-Tope finished the work. That's the breakthrough that the Ice were looking for.
Absolutely, and they just needed me to talk about how good the defence has been all game for that to happen. Yeah, really good goal there from Davis-Tope. I mean, got himself into the right position, so when you're that close to the ice, and you could just have to pop it in behind the net.
Well, that must be relief for the girls in blue, because they've fought hard all game. They've given away 14 penalty minutes, and now they're able to slot that one through.
Just audacious. It was through the legs pass. Like, I played a lot of soccer and got nutmegged an awful lot. It's do they call it a nutmeg in ice hockey? What's the term? Yep.
I believe
if you're doing commentary, JJ, you can call it what you want.
Yep. But no, brilliant goal. And Christina Julien, we'll get into the points later, but had herself a weekend, 7 points. And there might be a discrepancy between the points that we have, that we talk about, the stats that we talk about on Esports Desk. We've double checked all the goals. Out of the 20 goals scored on the weekend, we corrected 10. And we'll have that information available later in the week. Another player. Yeah.
Side note, just before we go, that Melbourne Ice jersey looks sick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I found myself thinking that they were Brisbane all the time, because I'm like, it's being played at O'Brien. It's the team with the white jersey, right? So I kept on subconsciously thinking, oh my goodness, like, yeah. So it's cool though. It's pretty cool. Long time coming.
Even though it's a Melbourne Ice jersey that we've seen 100 billion times in the AI, suddenly seeing it on the women makes it look so different, because, as you said, all we're used to seeing from the Ice is the white jersey.
Yeah, they've cleaned the yellow off on the women's jersey.
She's always
this is the next
Emily. She always a good shot, but
there it is. It's home. It was right in the middle. The deflection came. And then to finish that in the blink of an eye, a great goal. Sarah Dash getting on the board again. One yesterday and another today.
Sarah Dash is back in the AWIHL. Wasn't around last season, and flipping heck, the Melbourne Ice are absolutely stacked. They've got obviously Christina Julien didn't play all of last season. She's back with them. Emily Davis-Tope is with them. They've got Sarah Dash. They've got Riley Ellis. Like, they've got a decent lineup.
And there's quite a few other players you didn't mention, GG. You know, Steph Cochrane, the Apex Predator, of course, Shana Godfrey, and quite a few others.
And yet, they're only 1 point ahead of second, though.
Yeah. You and your Perth Inferno bias, Sean.
Perth Inferno, come on.
But no, it was great to see, and a shout out to Phil Taylor too, who spotted during the game, sent me a message about Amelia Grigoriunas, who was playing at forward last season, was playing in defense, did a really good job, and he had a chat with one of the coaching staff after the game, and they said basically she was like, "How can I get more ice time?" And they're like, "Well, would you be willing to switch to D?" And she was like, "Yep, I'll switch to D," and she looked good. So that's one to keep an eye out on, is Amelia Grigoriunas as well.
Is a well-trodden path to getting more ice time. Switching
play D, play D or play goalie.
Well, I don't know. Goalie can, if you're a starter, yeah. If you're not getting much ice time.
Yeah, or officiate, right?
Or officiate.
Oh, you're guaranteed some ice time.
Yeah. So, no, and it was good to see Imogen Perry. She had a bit of an injury scare in that first game, and but I got a message from head coach Matt Meyer. She's all good. She's ready to play. So that's really good news. It's good to see her back in the league as well. I mean, she was a couple of years ago, the Australian senior women's team, the goaltending was Imogen Perry and Sasha King. So, for the Brisbane Lightning to have her, Katie Meyer, I know they'll miss Tracy McIntosh. She was absolutely awesome person. But they've got some good goaltending in Brisbane. They've got Kayla Arthur as well, who's coming up inline goalie. So Brisbane Lightning, they look set for a little while in between the pipes, which is good. Any final thoughts on the Melbourne Ice Brisbane game before we move on to Perth?
The Saturday game with the 6 goals in the last period, that was really the worst period of the weekend for the Lightning. Of course, they're going to have to score more than 1 goal a game to win, but as we saw on Saturday, that's all it needs to take sometimes with that Inferno game.
What a segue. And we saw that Georgia McClellan goal assisted by Elizabeth Scala early, and we had a chat with Kent about it. Yes, the AWIHL have the same rules as the NHL, where the skate can be lifted on the zone entry. But there was a goal from Sunday, and I'll get into a couple of stats that I thought were interesting. But here's first of all, you got to check out this goal, a beautiful team goal from the Inferno. For the Perth Inferno, Scala finds Salmons. Salmons backdoor pass, and it's a tap in for Isla Malcolm. Beautiful play. Elizabeth Scala just turning from goal scorer to provider, and Sarah Salmons led all players in shot assists. So that's passes leading to shots by teammates. She led it by a fair margin. That top line for the Inferno was bowling all weekend. They were really good.
They scored all the goals.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Georgia McClellan on D scored one on the Saturday, but then the Sunday it was Salmons opening the scoring, 2 Scala goals, and then the Malcolm goal that we just saw. So that there was this. Sorry, Eric.
So is the secret keep the top line quiet, and then who knows? But did we eventually find out if Michelle Clark-Crumpton was injured? Did we find that out eventually?
Look, I haven't got confirmation, but she didn't play on Sunday. She played was out for the opening face-off and skated off straight away. So I don't know if something just didn't feel right or whatever. I can't speculate. May not have been available to play on Sunday. Got no idea. So
it's just a shame because she could have added a lot to that game as well. But we may never know. But it was very, very interesting weekend all round. It was very noticeable the difference between the goaltending efforts on the Saturday with Ella Laikari, who technically gets a shutout as well, and also Sasha King. That's Sasha King's second shutout in a row, if you include her Trans-Tasman performance against New Zealand.
Yeah, I don't think you get a shutout in overtime, but if you make it to the shootout, you get the shutout. Yeah. So Lakari, it's amazing. So from our stats, Sasha King saved 78 of 81 shots over the weekend.
Wow.
Which is obscene. And a save percentage of 0.963. Ala Lakari saved 27 or 26 of 27 shots on the Saturday and has exactly the same save percentage, 0.963. And I thought Naoka Wellard on Sunday was phenomenal. Like the goals that she allowed, there was one from Sarah Salmons in the high slot who beat her posting in. Then 2, Elizabeth Scala right in the blue paint was allowed to come into the blue paint and scored. And then that last goal that we saw, like by Isla Malcolm, like I thought Naoka Wellard made some huge saves and looked really good. Like, yeah, from last season to this season, she looks pretty good. So, yeah, I think. Sorry, Eric.
And not to mention a hat trick on Sunday to Sarah Edney, who has scored every Sirens goal this season.
And every goal was different.
Yeah,
sorry.
Abby, what did you make of the Sirens' performance this weekend?
I thought they did pretty well. I think Edney's, like, all of her shots were quite clean. Like, all of them, she knew what she was doing every time. She had control, and she just got it in the net. And like every time, it was just so clean. So I think the Sirens did pretty well. It was a tough first game, like going into overtime, obviously, for the first game of the season as well. It's a bit of hard to go overtime for the first game, but they did well the second, like on the Sunday, to bring it back a bit and get 3 in. So, yeah.
Yeah, they would have been pretty happy to get on the board in the second game after the blank in the first. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a long day for the Sirens as well on the Saturday, basically flying over Saturday morning, arriving into Perth, basically playing straight away. You're on Western Australian time when you get over there, so you're 3 hours behind Sydney. So it's a long day.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Sarah Edney's hat-trick, fun fact, 1 was even strength, 1 was on the power play, 1 was shorthanded. And they were scored they were scored 3 different ways as well. Like the first one was a deke. The second one, she caught Sasha King by surprise. Like Sasha King was not expecting a shot from that angle and just put it 5-hole. And then the last one was an absolute like dart, like just right over the shoulder and underneath the bar. Like she's a bowler, Sarah Edney. But that Saturday game, I know we commented on it a little bit in the broadcast, and I had someone else, another tell me it had a playoff feel to it. It was like that 1-0 game. It was
like intense. It was like you were on the edge of your seat being like, who's going to score first? It was quite,
yeah.
But that's great. It bodes well for the season, right? Like it could be quite a close season this year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. These are the teams that finished first and last on the table and 2 1-goal games, right? Like,
yeah,
anyone can beat anyone in this league.
Yep.
And we're yet to see Adelaide.
Yet to see Adelaide. But let's we are well and truly over time. Let's hit first of all the league standings. Abby, take us through the league standings.
Yeah, so Melbourne, after their 2 wins on the weekend, they're first. Perth is second. Obviously, they had an overtime win and then a win on the Sunday. Sirens are third and Brisbane is fourth. And then with no games played, Adelaide Rush is fifth.
Perfect. And here are the points leaders. Who wants to take us through the points leaders?
Go, Abby.
I'm going to butcher these names. I'm so sorry, guys.
Welcome to my commentary career.
First is Christina Julian. Second is Ashley Arapici. You know what? I'm so sorry about that. Third is Elizabeth Aparicio. Yep. Third is Elizabeth Scala. Fourth is Sarah Dash. And fifth is Sarah Edney with her hat trick.
Perfect. And This weekend, the Adelaide Rush, fun fact, they start their season last out of the 5 teams, and they finish their season first out of the 5 teams. Their season ends a week early, so they've got a slightly condensed schedule. They'll be without head coach Jeff Bodie, who's in Brazil at the IIHF Learn to Play conference, and they'll have Jeremy Friedrich running the bench. But they play the Inferno in Adelaide. We had a 9-8 game between these two teams last year, so it's all set up for the commentators to mention that, and then it'd be a 1-0 game.
Emma Moonen against Sasha King, 1-0 in OT.
Yep.
What about the Ducks, guys?
What about the Ducks? They had their jersey presentation night last night, and man, those jerseys look sick. And they are off for their first away trip, heading off to Brisbane. So they play the 2 teams that they didn't play last season in games at IIHF. They play on the road, so Brisbane Lightning and Perth Inferno. And then they host the Melbourne Ice at IIHF in January, I believe. So,
well, it's going to be a weird thing for the Melbourne Ice to be traveling in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Such a long road trip. They better take snacks.
So what's anyone? Any final thoughts? We are well and truly over an hour now.
It'd be good to see the Ducks play.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be good to see the Ducks play, the Rush play, and let's hope that Lightning can ride the Lightning and score some goals.
Yeah.
And I think it would be nice to see the new dynamics and skills that the Rush have created over the preseason. So excited to see that.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, we've done it. We've gotten through. Thank you, everyone, for listening as well. Thank you for joining Eric, Abby, and Sean. You can find us at www.hockeyhypeaustralia.com.au, on socials at hockeyhypeaus. You can watch a replay of this recording on YouTube or Facebook. You can listen to us in podcast form if that's your thing on iHeartRadio, on Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify Podcasts. We shout out to our partners TTC as well, our quality assurance providers. Reach out to them, tell us that we sent you their way, and they'll give you a great deal on their automated testing services as well. Any final words? No?
Bye.
See you all.
See you later. All right, let's see if I can get this video to work. All right. Take care. See you later, and see you next time.